ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Nigerian army says situation under control after explosion near Mogadishu barracks in Abuja. National Charter for Peace and Reconciliation in Mali to be inaugurated by June 30. Ghana's opposition slams government over U.S. embassy shutdown amid visa fraud scandal.
Because when you do this, the point is that you have told the entire world. You think that America would trust your embassy in Washington, would trust you when they are dealing with you?
And Liberia launches campaign for re-election to Category A at IMO Council.
This year, we are standing for re-election because we present a very qualitative credential.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in the Central Sahel region, specifically Niger, where 40 soldiers were killed and several others injured in a terrorist attack. The incident occurred on May 27 at an army camp located in Tahua region, which borders Mali. In addition to the fatalities, several army officers also sustained injuries during the attack. Augustine Kole report.
No official statement has been released so far, but a recent attack on a military camp followed a violent clash involving special forces in Ikiwan, located in the Tahua region. Last Sunday's attack reportedly resulted in approximately 40 fatalities, with several others injured. The material damage is also significant, including the destruction of vehicles and the seizure of a large quantity of weapons, as noted by reinforcements upon their arrival at the scene. A dozen soldiers who were killed during the attack were buried on Sunday. Others also lost their lives on Monday in Tahua while engaged in combat in the presence of Chief of General Staff Musa Salau Bamu. It is important to note that this is the second time this military camp has been targeted by fighters from the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara Group, which operates in the area. In September 2024, the same camp was attacked, resulting in the deaths of 38 army personnel. The latest attack has been claimed by the terrorist group Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, which operates along the border between Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso.
Augustine Kole filed that report. A Nigerian explosion occurred Monday in Abuja near the Mogadishu military cantonment. The Nigerian army claimed to have brought the situation under control, but provided no details on the cause of the incident. In a text message posted on its official channels, the General Staff said explosion at a bus stop opposite the Mogadishu cantonment, Abuja situation under control. Details later. The army promised to release additional information, leaving uncertainty for the time being over the nature of the explosion and any possible human toll. This incident comes amid a tense security climate in Nigeria. The country continues to face several pockets of instability, including the jihadist insurgency in the northeast, violence by armed gangs in the center, and kidnapping targeting civilians and local authorities. While Abuja is generally spared from the violence affecting other parts of the country, the authorities there maintain a high level of vigilance. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, the long-awaited verdict in a real estate fraud case involving a former magistrate and others was delivered on Monday by the Ouaga 1 High Court. Former magistrate Sidati Yoda and his co-defendants were each sentenced to 18 months in prison and fined 291 million CFA francs, with the sentence being firm. Francis Boniface completes the story.
The former president of the Bamfara High Court, Sidati Yoda, along with two co-defendants, was found guilty of illegally selling plots belonging to others in a real estate scam that involved 108 million CFA francs. Lamin Terra and Adama Ganami, who were also charged with the same offenses, were acquitted of money laundering charges due to the benefit of doubt. However, the judge found them guilty of theft. Lamin Terra received a 24-month prison sentence, with 6 months suspended, along with a fine of 3 million CFA francs, while Adama Ganame was sentenced to 24 months in prison and fined 3 million CFA francs, both of which were suspended. In the same ruling, the court declared the civil action brought by the National Anti-Corruption Network, RANLAC, inadmissible. However, it accepted the civil action from 10 victims, a ruling it well-founded. The defendants were ordered to pay these victims a total of 117,203,990 CFA francs, as well as 1 million CFA francs to the state. The three defendants were jointly and severally ordered to pay an additional 2,800,000 CFA francs in costs that were not included in the victims' compensation. The Wadr High Court also rejected the nullity plea regarding the investigation reports of the Attorney General at the Bobo Dialoso Court of Appeal. The convicted individuals have 15 days to appeal the initial decision.
Francis Boniface filed that report. In the meantime, Malian government is continuing its political reconstruction efforts with the development of the National Charter for Peace and Reconciliation. This initiative, launched in June 2024, comes amid a break with the Algiers Peace Agreement and aims to establish a sovereign framework to address the country's security and social challenges. Prime Minister Abdoulaye Mega chaired a strategic meeting at the minister's office, bringing together the government and the committee responsible for drafting the National Charter for Peace and Reconciliation. The objective was to finalize the final details of this major document, whose official adoption is scheduled for June 30. Still in Mali, a journalist was placed in custody on Monday by the cybercrime unit. Seydou Omar Traoré is being prosecuted for an alleged offense against a foreign head of state. He was arrested on Sunday, shortly after returning from Kidal, where he was on a mission to cover military activities in the northern part of the country. His trial is scheduled for July 10, 2025. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Journalist Seydou Omar Traoré is currently in detention in Bamako, awaiting a trial scheduled for July 10. The charges against him stem from a recent statement in which he allegedly accused Guinea of serving as a base for armed groups hostile to Mali, implicating Kenyan military officials, including Transitional President General Mamadi Doumbouya. Journalist Traoré later apologized in a public statement made from Kidal, stating that his remarks had been misunderstood and taken out of context. Despite his apology, the prosecution requested that he be held in custody under the Cybercrime Court, which has jurisdiction over content distributed digitally. According to the court, the offense conflicts with Article 147 of the Malian Penal Code, which stipulates that anyone who offends the head of state or a foreign head of state by any means can face imprisonment of 3 months to 1 year and a fine ranging from 50,000 to 600,000 CFA francs. So far, no comments have been made by his lawyers or relative, including the Press Association of Mali. This case arises during a sensitive period in the relations between Guinea and Mali, both of which are experiencing political transitions. On May 24, Guinean customary associations based in Mali met with Guinean diplomatic authorities to help ease the tensions resulting from the journalist's comments. This is not the first time Seydou Omar Traoré has faced prosecution. In 2020, he was briefly detained over a defamation complaint related to his criticism of the Malian judicial system.
Christopher Tisho with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's take you now to Benin, where the government led by President Patrice Talon is facing criticisms for refusing to hold discussions on electoral laws that disadvantage opposition parties and secure the ruling party's hold on power. Civil society organizations in the country argue that these laws, such as the requirement for political parties to have national coverage and substantial funding, effectively exclude independent candidates from the electoral process. These concerns have been expressed in the lead-up to the 2026 presidential election in Benin. Jean-Baptiste Elias is the president of the National Organizations Against Corruption in Benin.
C'est la non-application par le ministre de l'Intérieur de l'époque.
It's the Interior Minister's failure to implement the law at the time that has led to continuous talk about 295 political parties. Look at the numbers of parties in Parliament in 2015. You won't find 295. The law stated, and he just repeated it, that some were removed. If the Interior Minister at the time had implemented the law, all political parties that didn't participate in at least 2 elections would have been expelled. Secondly, we are saying there are 11 political parties. But when you establish a political party, it is to go to elections to win the vote of the electorate. With 11 political parties today, with the sponsorship system in place today, can all 11 political parties run in the elections? The answer is no. Since the sponsorship system we've put in place in the code states that 15% of the sponsorships are required to be the top candidate in the elections. That means that if we let all the MPs and all the mayors have their sponsorships, we will have at best, and in total, not more than 6 candidates, even though there are 11 political parties.
Au mieux et en tout et pour tout, pas plus de 6 candidats, alors qu'il y a 11 partis politiques.
John Baptiste Elias is the president of the National Organizations Against Corruption Front in Benin. Similarly, in Togo, the number of municipal councillors to be elected in the upcoming local elections on July 10 has increased significantly. According to latest decree issued by the state, a total of 1,666 municipal councillors are to be elected, up from 1,527 in 2019, which represents an increase of 140 seats. However, some political parties consider this as a belated decision and are calling for the elections to be postponed in order to allow for better preparations. Abdullah Hassan has the details in this report.
This decision followed a decree signed on May 21, 2025 by the President of the Council, Foyan Singbe, to increase the number of municipal councillors to 1,667. The decree was issued one day after the official opening of the nomination process for the upcoming municipal elections. In response to this decision, the Action Committee for Renewal, CER, has called for a postponement of the municipal elections. The Dynamics for the People's Majority DMP also issued a press statement supporting the call for a delay in the elections, describing the presidential decree as a decision made late at night. Additionally, the Permanent Consultative Framework CPC held its 21st session of the year on Monday in Lomé, the nation's capital, and addressed the increase in the number of municipal councillors to be elected. According to the Togolese government, this decision was based on updated data from the 5th General Population and Housing Census and aims to ensure that local representation reflects demographic changes.
That was a report from Sylvain Wadr in Lomé and voiced by Abdullah Hassan. Now, Ghana's minority in parliament has criticized the government's temporary closure of the Ghanaian embassy in Washington, D.C. amid a visa scandal. The embassy closure was announced by the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Oblakwa on Monday after a major corruption scandal involving visa fraud and unauthorized payment was uncovered by a special unit. The fraudulent activities were linked to the embassy's IT department. According to the minister, the move is to allow for deeper investigations and a complete restructuring of the mission. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Tete report.
Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C. has been shut down temporarily following revelations of a visa fraud scheme uncovered through a special audit. Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Oblakwa confirmed the closure, describing it as a necessary measure to restore credibility and tighten oversight at the country's foreign missions. An investigation found that a local IT officer at the embassy, Fred Kwating, had for years been diverting visa and passport applications to a private website where they were charged unauthorized fees. The funds reportedly went into his personal account. All staff posted to the mission have been recalled, while local employees have been suspended. The matter has been referred to the Attorney General for further action. However, Deputy Ranking Member on the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee, Nana Safweje Aye, has condemned the government's approach, describing it as undiplomatic.
We are not saying that the crime should be concealed. No, but take it off the media. Because when you do this. The point is that you have told the entire world. You think that America would trust your embassy in Washington, would trust you when they are dealing with you?
His position is countered by international relations expert Richard Kumado.
This is not a service to disadvantage anybody. He used the word restructuring. I don't know the key elements of the restructuring agenda, but knowing the intensity and how well New York and Washington has been in terms of Ghanaians and foreigners who want to visit this country and the importance of assessing our embassy, I don't think it's something that is going to last for years.
A full forensic audit is expected, with no word yet on when the embassy will reopen. The government says the disruption is unfortunate but necessary to clean up the system and reinforce its anti-corruption stance. For WADR, Nadi Tete, Accra.
Staying in Ghana, President John Mahama has announced that his government is taking steps to reopen both domestic and international capital markets, with a particular focus on revitalizing Ghana's bond market. While speaking at the Ghana CEO Summit in Accra, the president explained that future borrowing will prioritize self-financing and commercially viable projects. He noted that this initiative, which is being carried out in collaboration with the IMF, the Ghana Stock Exchange, development partners and local banks, is part of broader efforts to stabilize the economy following years of debt accumulation. He explained that the initiative is one of 8 key measures outlined in his administration's economic recovery plan.
We will continue the discipline in government expenditure and borrowing and work to achieve all targets under the Extended Credit Fund with a program with the IMF. We expect to conclude the 4th review of the IMF program in June 2025 with a target to exit at the end of the program in 2026. And thereafter, we will participate in Article 4 consultations and adopt the policy support instrument framework, signaling Ghana's return to responsible, non-borrowing engagement with the fund. And the second is reopening domestic and international capital markets. We're working to reopen Ghana's bond market in collaboration with the IMF and our development partners, the Ghana Stock Exchange and local banks. However, future borrowing will be linked to self-financing commercially viable projects, particularly by MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs, ensuring value for money and sustainable repayment.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigerian army says situation under control after explosion near Mogadishu barracks in Abuja. National Charter for Peace and Reconciliation in Mali to be inaugurated by June 30. Ghana's opposition slams government over U.S. embassy shutdown amid visa fraud scandal. And still ahead in the news, Liberia launches campaign for re-election to Category A at IMO Council. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, don't forget we're streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Well, let's take it to Guinea-Bissau, where Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye concluded a 24-hour visit on Monday. This marked the first state visit by a Senegalese president to Guinea-Bissau since the country gained independence in 1974. Upon his arrival, President Faye received a military welcome and was presented with the Cabral Medal, the highest honor in Guinea-Bissau. He also visited the Amoura Fortress, where Amilcar Cabral, the revered figure of Guinea-Bissau's War of Independence, is buried. During the visit, President Faye and Guinea-Bissau's head of state, Umar Sissoco Embalo, discussed various areas of cooperation, ultimately leading to the signing of an agreement. Here's an extract of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's statement during the visit.
I would like to express my satisfaction with the rich cooperation in several areas between Senegal and Guinea-Bissau, particularly in defense and security, agriculture and fishing, just to name a few. I would like to assure that Senegal will always stand by Guinea-Bissau in its efforts to strengthen its security and stability. We have taken a broad look at current events and the many common challenges that concern us, particularly the instability and risks of disintegration of ECOWAS.
Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye speaking there. Now, the Mano Youth River Parliament Liberia chapter has initiated a comprehensive nationwide mapping exercise for youth organizations across Liberia. This project aims to update the chapter's database of youth-led peace-building and civil society groups in the country. Officially launched on Monday in Monrovia, the capital, the exercise will identify and connect youth organizations that are actively engaged in peace-building, advocacy and community development. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
The mapping exercise taking place from May 26 to June 9, 2025 aims to strengthen youth voices, foster collaboration and prepare organizations for upcoming youth parliamentary elections. Daniel Namaneus, the current speaker of the 4th Mano River Youth Parliament Liberia chapter, emphasized the importance of uniting youth organizations that contribute to peace building in Liberia.
This pivotal undertaking, we identify, connect, and empower youth-led groups, fostering greater collaborations and impact in national development. This mapping exercise is a crucial step towards strengthening the collective voice and capacity of Liberian youth in the area of peace building, security, and sustainable development.
The Mano River Youth Parliament also supports Liberia's campaign to secure a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council, asserting that the country is opposed to war experience and commitment to peace make it a strong candidate for efforts focused on regional and global stability. The youth organization believes that Liberia's participation in the Security Council will enhance its voice in global peace negotiations and promote the crucial role of youth in conflict prevention and resolution.
In the case of strong regional solidarity, the Mano River Youth Parliament also formally endorses Liberia's bid for a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council.
The official launch of the mapping exercise concluded with a strong commitment to continue promoting youth empowerment and building a peaceful and resilient Africa through youth-led initiatives and international diplomacy. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Staying in Liberia, the government has launched its campaign for re-election to the International Maritime Organization IMO Council Category A. Ambassador Pade highlighted Liberia's status as the largest maritime registry and its commitment to adhering to global maritime regulations and laws.
This is a very critical moment. Liberia will stand tall amongst global maritime institutions and maritime member states, after seeking re-election based on our record as a country. Since 1949, Liberia joined the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. We have been quite very productive, quite effective and efficient. Based on our contribution, we've been able to provide to the IMO over the last decades and more. This year, we are standing for re-election because we present a very qualitative credential based on our contribution. Liberia is not just only the biggest shipwrecks, but our ship and our registry program conforms entirely to global regulation, global norms, global laws to ensure that we conduct our business in keeping with global maritime law. Not only that, we continue to be very robustly involved in the workings of the IMO, from the plenary to subcommittee workings to committee workings to working group, and everywhere we continue to be very visible and continue to demonstrate leadership. Our contribution in these different deliberations have been quite qualitative. So based on our record, very outstanding record, a very enviable record.
That was Liberia's permanent representative at the IMO, Ambassador Robert Pade.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we stay in Monrovia as Abraham Parker takes us on the newspaper review.
We begin with Front Page Africa newspaper with this first story. Shameful justification. Senator Duncan defends wealth accumulation by public officials, criticizes silence on foreign exploitation of natural resources. With win in its seals, Liberia charts course for continued IMO leadership. Commerce Minister Dakar urges private sector to drive Liberia's economic renewal. Up next is the Daily Observer newspaper. McGibbon's outright embarrassed over Islamatized overpriced road project, a defined diplomatic movement Liberia as UN Security Council role with legislative backing. Professor John T. Woos, Liberia's first natural resources economist, dies. And our last stop is the Inquiry newspaper. Moja incites Liberians to demand accountability. Others crowned against humanity. High-level Indian dedication during Liberia's song. And forgive them, but don't deal with them again. We are preachers' Mother's Day message. That does it for this Tuesday's edition of Press Review from Liberia.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, turns 50 on May 28th, the same day in history when it was formed in 1975. Since then, the regional bloc has established and reviewed its operation blueprint of promoting regional unity, maintaining peace and security, and protecting human rights, among others. However, the shift in international politics by the superpowers, unfriendly economic policies, and especially insecurity have hampered the regional body's activities in certain quarters. Yet, when WDR asked a historian and governance expert, Professor Gogi Jeng, about his assessment of ECOWAS at 50, he had this to say.
The first observation we have got to make is that the collaboration between the member states of ECOWAS has been, on the whole, quite strong. And we can consider ECOWAS to be, if not the strongest, but one of the strongest regional communities in Africa. It has really achieved a lot. The economic integration is real. People can move from Nigeria and come and settle in Senegal and vice versa. And this is valid for the other countries also. So there is a degree of social integration that is really tangible. Economically speaking also, even though we have got to improve this side of the cooperation, a lot of things have been done and exchanges exist between the different countries. We have also a regional parliament, which is working quite well. On the whole, if I really have got to give a mark to the organization, I would say good, but have got to do better.
Now, in what area do you think ECOWAS moving forward, looking into the second Jubilee journey, should improve on? At least we have seen that regardless of their strength in standing together, 3 countries have pulled out, talking about the 3 Sahelian states. Many have said this is a major blow on the face of ECOWAS. So what are some of the other things that you think they can do better?
Well, the breakaway, you can call it a breakaway. I don't believe that there is any breakaway. I think it's simply a reaction to threats against those military regimes that triggered off their reaction. And the name of the association, alliance, means a lot.
That was Senegalese historian and governance expert, Professor Gogi Jeng. In sport news, Tunisian tennis player Ons Jabeur, currently ranked 35 in the world, will begin her participation in the Roland Garros tournament, one of the 4 major Grand Slam events, on Tuesday. In this first round at Roland Garros, Tunisian Omar will face Polish Magdalena Frech, ranked 26 in the WTA rankings. And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to the team of our technical team led by Mustafa Sek. Do join our French team at 1 o'clock for the French news. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia.